Detroit, directed by Kathryn Bigelow, starring John Boyega, Will Poulter, Algie Smith, and Jacob Lattimore, and a whole bunch more people in a fantastic ensemble cast. The story is set in the 1967 riots in Detroit and the events that happened at the Algiers Motel. Now, first things first, this movie should not be divisive at all. By all accounts, from the testimonies from the police officers, what happened at the trial, and the telling of the story here, they tried their best to absolutely make this as close to accurate as possible. So one thing this movie isn't is an excuse to be violent to cops. I think that anybody walking away from this film thinking that the intention of this movie was to make it seem like all cops are bad and all black people are innocent in this situation is not watching the movie that was set on screen. They're definitely watching a movie that they made up in their minds probably before they went into the theater. So I don't think this movie is trying to say anything except for this is an important event that happened in the history of our country, and our history is dark sometimes. We see both the good and the bad on both sides of the fence here, and it's presented as close to a documentary style as it could be possible. The movie is as complex as the actual situation here. Now, what's great about Kathryn Bigelow's directing style in this film is, just like the other movies that she's in, she uses a lot of handy cam, a lot of, close-up, extreme close-up shots. And when you're in the Algiers Motel and you're experiencing the events that happen in this movie, you really feel like you're there. The movie sets up the tension by showing the beginning of the riots, the few days before it, the National Guard get called in. You get historical footage of George Romney popping in there as well. At the end of this movie, I was silent for a few minutes, just trying to absorb all of the things that I had just seen. This movie is extremely powerful and, should hit you, right in the gut, especially if you're an American. It's 1967, and some of the worst riots in history are happening in Detroit. This is the backdrop for this film. Now, they set up the fact that snipers are actually firing at police officers, National Guards, and state police in the beginning of this movie. So a starter pistol is allegedly fired. Now, I use the word allegedly because both in the movie and in real life, the starter pistol that apparently started this whole incident off was never found. And the reason that I bring that up is because, once again, I don't think this movie is trying to say all cops are bad and the kids didn't do anything wrong. There's some trouble on both sides here. But since that starter pistol was never found, it didn't even need to be included. I mean, in the trial, they never found this thing. So it didn't even be included in the movie, but they included it because they wanted to make sure, once again, that this movie kind of split the side of the fence just to show the complexity and how deep this issue ran, especially in Detroit at that time. So when we get into the motel, the tension gets ratcheted up and it remains high at all times. That style of filming, like I said, gets you in the moment, keeps you, makes you feel like you're there, and this movie doesn't really follow one character or two characters around. Like I said, the stars of the movie are really the ones that it kind of follows around. Now, the ensemble cast is fantastic here, and all of the acting is stellar, but I do have to single out Will Poulter here. The kid is amazing and puts on a heck of a performance, and I don't see any reason why he shouldn't get some sort of supporting actor nod at some point in time, and this movie could probably win like a SAG award for Best Ensemble Cast. And I'll say this about this movie too. I think every kid in America at like 16 years old should see this movie. Now I know what you're thinking. This movie is extremely violent and it has a lot of blood in it. Yeah, but the kids are watching that stuff anyway. They're watching Marvel movies, people are being ripped apart. Just because you throw a senseless army of Chitauri at me doesn't make it any less violent. The violence in this movie has to be there because that's what happened in real life. And I think that it would be a great movie to watch in order for kids to have a discussion about race relations in this country. Now let's complain about the trailer a bit, as we like to complain, because trailers are just horrible now. I know they were horrible in the past, but now they just give away too much or completely mismarket a movie. In the trailer, you see John Boyega sitting down, speaking to detectives, and it looks like the detectives are trying to frame him for what happened here, and they're not. That really doesn't happen in the movie. He is a main character in the movie, but he's not in it as much, so I know they're trying to sell it on, hey, that's Finn from Star Wars, remember him? He's a great actor, come see him in this movie. And everyone should see this movie. But the trailer, I think, is going to turn people off a little bit because it really is much more of kind of a documentary-style film about what happened here. So go see this movie. I highly recommend it. Take your friends, take your family. It'll probably spark an interesting conversation in the car on the way home. You're not going to walk away smiling from this movie, but I think this movie is one of those necessary movies because what this movie will give you is perspective. And that's one of those things I think that is desperately needed in this country by everyone. So thank you everybody for watching. If you like watching my reviews, please subscribe to me right here, watch my other content, and get out and see Detroit this weekend because you're not really going to see Dark Tower or Kidnap, are you? Thank you for watching.